20th February, 9:23 a.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Hello, wives, wardens, and weirdos. My name is TB Skyn, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney, where we have finished our first day of investigation of this strange and unusual case. All the cases are strange and unusual. And now we're heading into the Old Bailey to defend our poor, disturbed writer man. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon?
We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass.
Oh, but you put it like that. You're quite right.
Good morning! I assume that's the defendant. Yeah. Ah, Mr. Natsume. Good morning.
Oh dear. Are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot.
The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain.
Yes, I've heard that expression.
But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. Now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally?
Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Miss Natsume.
I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs on the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, look, I'm student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire.
Yes?
I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, well, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Mr. Sato? I had to take a drink there, sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea.
So, that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Vinceeks? Is that right, Mr. Sato?
I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Vinceeks is on the front page of every one.
I knew it.
Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday.
Yeah, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Vinceeks' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. Trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a memory.
I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's.
But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country.
Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're all speculating various answers.
Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us.
Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it.
Well, lest we forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. But there's another blatant similarity with the trial.
Oh, but there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree.
Oh, no, that was him. It wasn't Susato. Look, I'm student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. It's you. Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times, it's you who stand against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers.
I'm afraid there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Naruhodo, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck.
Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such a frail fortune? by the least lucky lawyer alive!
Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student new to London with little in the way of experience, skills, or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight in your corner until the bitter end. And I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side.
Oh, benevolent lawn locum assistant, Miss Mikotaba Esquire-S. I'm in your debt forever. I shall never forget this great kindness for as long as I live.
Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once.
All right then, Mr. Natsume. It's time. Let's go.
I'm trying to drink tea in between things because, well, it is a little rough on my voice. Yes!
This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. My second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client till the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight.
'20th February, 10 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and the defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord.
The defense is ready, my lord.
The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed.
Oh my god. Sorry, what?
Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur.
Do you have a point?
Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Oh, you're one to talk, Captain standing in the middle of the British Empire.
Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Sasada-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent.
Very true. And the most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted, and his unfortunate violent end. Ooh, we recognize someone there, don't we?
Thank you, counsel. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public?
You never know what you might be doing in your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone.
Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh, well, not me. What you see is what you get. Yeah, I'm a peace-loving fella.
Let's give him an American accent, actually.
I'm afraid to say I think it's quite possible that moustached foreigner did the deed.
Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway.
Hey, sorry, didn't quite catch you.
Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Six. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Sosuke Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, I wouldn't say that.
Regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, the student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street.
A knife crime? I can tell from being experienced, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are.
Just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese.
Oh, fuck you, lady.
Come on, let's get it over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Pray forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Your name and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard.
Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector?
The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
Olive Green?
I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be. Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her taker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since.
What? So they don't even know who she is for sure?
Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger? Fortunately, for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray elaborate on the details, Inspector.
So, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running along Briar Road, a white thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far.
Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please.
Let's have a look.
So, local map, Bailey Road, Calabash Street Road. So those presumably were the relevant roads. And Measham Street. Or, although I'm tempted to pronounce that, Meerschaum Street. Yeah, Meersaumstraße. Yeah, das ist was. Let's see. Customer, Miss, and that's me. Sum of 2 shillings tendered in receipt of the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, Emile Vagobio, Canterbury Yearnings. I wonder if those are real books. Presumably not. Let's see. Details. Young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. Olive green, female, stout build, early 20s. Pavement at Briar Road, East Side. Reporting officer, Rolly Beat. Okay. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from the large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer. By the reporting officer, huh? And was successfully arrested the following day. Mm-hmm. What of the weapon that was used?
See, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back.
Ouch! That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now.
With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman.
Even the scrag-looking Soski-san, I suppose. A common old garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. The jackknife. Let's have a look. Cleaned of blood, I guess. But the tip seems to have broken off. That's interesting.
Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo. Just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing.
You're right. Well spotted, Mr. Sato.
I wonder what could have happened to it.
Yeah. You don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you?
Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful.
That's gonna be important. Anything else? No. Okay. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume?
From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have cared anything much worth pinching, my lord.
I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim?
Well, I'm afraid I can say. Apart from visiting used second-hand butchershops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, don't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that? In a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Oh, Jesus Christ, Fanseeks. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponish student.
Yes, sir. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. At the blow, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, skittering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he's just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him.
Well, let us press that statement.
Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident.
Wait, color photographs? That's a little early for color photographs. Hang on a second. This is like the... Wait, I'm gonna Google this. Yeah, okay, so the first color photograph was made, like, it was first demonstrated in the 1860s, and the first one actually appeared in the 1890s. So, okay. But, like, still. Like, it's technically, it's possible chronologically, but,
Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring.
I will take that photographic print as evidence. Inspector, please.
Crime scene photograph, as entered into the court record.
Oh, there's the racism again. Right, so, not much point magnifying anything on here, I think. So, we've got that purse is probably going to be important. Stab wound, but no blood. Interesting.
You Nipponese are a spineless breed. Too cowardly to admit defeat.
Oh, come on, dude.
Denying everything, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Well,
Forgive me, Lord Van Seeks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it.
What are you doing, Mr. Sato?
Do go on.
Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in prison, he did tell us what had happened.
As I was walking along that little cursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings.
A green overcoat.
Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing.
Oh my, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next?
The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean he is guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back.
There was nobody else there at the time. Just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. Effect that the accused concedes. Well, it seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, Counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance.
And we start, as usual, God, those backgrounds are cool, with a press.
Hold it! A light fog, you say?
Well, light for London. You can see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though.
That's light, is it?
Around these parts, yes. Not something I'd expect a Japanese fella like yourself to know, of course.
I've read that London is famous for its fog, but in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance.
How quaint.
Yes, well, it's not something as Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate.
I see.
At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm.
Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling.
Society decided I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen.
However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Visibility was reasonably good. There was no one else about but the victim and the accused.
Hold it! How are you able to state that with any certainty?
Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us.
Ah yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, did he?
That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That's correct, ma'am.
Then we must hear their testimony.
The prosecution will of course call them to the stand, should it be necessary.
But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen...
I am unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here, in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated by the night, in the night by gas streetlights.
Ah!
The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite, here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness.
Yes, and then we started doing light pollution so hard that it fucks up the sleeping, the behavioral patterns of very important insects that are key to the ecosystem and makes it impossible to do astronomy because we light up the night sky too much. Also causes depression and sleeplessness in human beings, so that's great. Which means we really need to hear those witnesses' statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to.
It seems that the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
Hold it! From behind, you say?
It's right, as you can see from this print.
Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Grin, remains in critical condition? Comatose, no less.
I'm afraid so, my lord. Yes, she's been treated at Bart's. I was hopeful that she'd come round before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be.
Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. No. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Hold it! Miss Natsume's belongings,
I think you'll find us all there in the photographic print of the crime scene.
Yes, the 3 books on the floor.
That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course.
The accused could have easily carried all 3 books in one hand. Which means, in his other hand, he would have been free to wield a knife, for example.
He's very clever, isn't he?
What do you mean?
He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close one avenue of escape, the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there.
You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back?
That must be what happened, my lord, yes.
Must be, huh?
Those being the number of old books he just bought.
Yeah, home and bookshop. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis.
Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature.
I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention.
The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books.
Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector?
Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid.
More information, thank you.
The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Masham Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this.
Important? Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would have certainly passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop.
Mr. Naruhodo, I think what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance.
Yeah, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being... Oh, it's the name, right? Your Books is where he bought that thing. And the local map says Bourbon Books.
So...
Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor?
What?
Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance.
I be.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, yes, it could be a very important clue. Very well, not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector.
Yes, sir, my lord, whatever you say.
Could the man be any more sardonic?
Or was he on his way home from Bourbon Books now? Was he? Was he?
If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson.
Why is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know.
This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books.
You found that in the accused room, did you?
Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name on of the shop printed on it.
Go on.
This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books.
Your Books? Y-O-E-R-E, I presume?
Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Hey, what?
Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop?
Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that... Well, it's just a small place. I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
Objection!
But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
Yes, for what difference it makes. Whatever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
Objection!
I disagree. I mean, after all,
I have the street map here if that might be of help.
Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all.
Could that be true?
My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare...
Oh no. Are you a Southern Belle? Is that what I'm...
I do declare it may be a possibility.
No.
It may be a possibility.
Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely. It absolutely could be right.
Well, it's not going to be that easy, is it?
Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that.
It's just going to turn out to be like... yeah. Not that much help.
It's just here in the next corner of Mersham Street, going east.
The local maps information has been updated. Sweet. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now... Oh.
My learned Nipponese friend is obviously training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in circus.
Oh, you put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you.
Oh yeah, I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. The accused is coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books. There's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed.
Well, he could have taken another one. Yes, thank you, Inspector.
Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow Nipponese friend. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try.
What, sorry? Yeah, what did I say? I've had enough of this now.
Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up.
What do you mean?
If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty.
She's absolutely right.
We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully.
They claim that Sosuke-san must have passed the location of the incident on the way home, but... No, he could have gone another way. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed.
Explain yourself, counsel?
Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from Your Books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way round. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? The answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
Objection!
Yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection.
That's right. As I see it, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home.
I don't believe this! I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that's the case, the defense still...
I agree with Law 6, wholeheartedly and in every way.
What? I don't believe it. Does this mean...
We members of the jury are completely convinced now.
Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! 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 Guilty!
Well, that was fast. It will appear that the jury's leaning is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably.
Mr. Naruhodo.
No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow.
Oh, those are the eyes of Kwari, not yet willing to give up and die.
So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with a summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman?
Of course we're ready. It's all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his onkus refusal to throw in his alley.
Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. That was fast.
For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim.
The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. Oh, wait, let's do with him. The man would have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. Oh, damn, I can't do an transatlantic accent.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Your books, yes. I shot that, but urban books, no, not worth it. This is.
Without any minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Would you? In the absence of any fucking physical evidence? Okay.
Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now.
Why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense?
Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If you want to force the trial to continue...
Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their mind. Well, 4 of them at least.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord. I just need to keep this trial going somehow. Whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke. You can do it.
That little Nipponese oddity. I really don't care, huh? Let's start with you.
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes.
Don't get clever and move me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so's my family's.
Ah,
The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, then neither do the wife and kids.
oh, I see. That must be very hard.
I go to the union every morning to find out what he's doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, this water and gas supply pipe's bursting left, right, and center. They have to cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk, that is.
So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you?
That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly,
Jimmy, I
was just around the corner from where it all happened, by that old bookshop it was.
What? Another coincidence?
That's right, Mearsham Street it was.
Mearsham Street?
On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets.
Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please.
What's the point in that? Can we just get this business over with now?
Please, sir, it's important.
Fine, I'll do it then.
Okay, so let's press all of them and see what happens.
Hold it!
Excuse me, but aren't you...
Yeah, she's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago.
Yeah, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the side of it, anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you?
That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started fussing around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute.
Sorry?
Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You hit me and that young hatter picked as criminals.
Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge.
Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop.
If I could turn back the clock...
Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't.
Thank goodness. All right, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind given our awkward history.
Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. Forst now.
Or first.
Hold it!
You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to have seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him.
Oh, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly, that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly, that funny little Nepalese man with a disturbing moustache is the culprit.
But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman.
Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes.
But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible?
Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds?
Fuck you!
I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it.
I do declare that the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime.
Ugh.
If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple.
Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit.
No, because, like... How... You don't know what you don't know, lady.
Oh my, you're too kind, my lord.
That went well for her.
The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes that Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books.
Oh yeah, like you drew on the map, you mean? What was it? Calabash Road or something?
Precisely.
But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not.
Well, yes, that's true.
And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there?
Well, yes, that's true as well.
And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he?
Well, yes, that's annoyingly true.
Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quick as possible.
Well, yes. Why is all this true?
So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did.
Yes, you did.
I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone to Calabash Roadway, it would be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would.
A reason why Sosuke-san might have taken the longer way home.
Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one.
So, okay. I have an idea, but let's press her first.
Hold it!
Whatever is the matter, young man?
You're the wife of Mr. Garadep, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room?
The master's wife? Where do you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand?
She's keeping up that charade? This is gonna be awkward.
Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean?
Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice.
I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodgings in your master's house, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right. Although it's only been in a little over a week now.
And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this?
Oh my goodness me, yes. He's just the sort.
What?
Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous moustache. The man never speaks. And don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him?
'Cause they're racist!
He's just a harmless bookworm. Nothing more.
Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough damning things already.
Hold it!
Sorry? Fold it, you say? Fold what?
No, what I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often?
I like the old books they have in there. Yes, I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about.
And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question?
Well, I was picking up books in there all afternoon. It was, we would have to be just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about.
Just before 5, you say. Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time?
Oh, yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had.
What do you mean?
Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on my ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stops falling, and it's when it's most slippery.
Right, so Natsume saw him in his green coat fall on the street. Is that it? Oh god, okay.
Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road?
Yeah, that's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books.
Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant.
Eh? Sorry, extremely sick. No, I'm quite all right now.
It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of the Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree. It's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends shivers down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to advantage, Mr. Naruhodo, cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again, carefully. And if any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other.
Well, not all of them, because it costs you. If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, it can only have been the victim, Okay, so I think it's... Let's give it a shot. Because, like, what we have here is a reason why he would have gone around.
Objection!
Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another.
At odds, counsel? Explain yourself.
Please, don't point. It wasn't me, I swear.
Hey, what? Yeah, I just wanted to get this done and dusted.
Well, juror number 3. Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's being said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of second-hand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meersham Street, making it impassable. Which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meersham Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yeah, of course. What do you think, sir?
Well, yeah, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman came along had to turn back and go the other way.
So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yeah, I suppose he must have.
Yeah, I suppose that must be right, eh?
Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, but we see now that he had no choice. Yeah! My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may?
Yes?
I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yeah, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. That's one. What about you, sir?
Who, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say.
I love his design, it's very good. Like the way it uses the beard to frame his mouth.
Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, that was wonderful. Well, we managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only if we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume, we might be able to tip the balance completely.
Yes, that's exactly what we gotta do. Van Seeks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent by whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, Counsel. On with summation examination, please. Yes, my lord. Can it only have been the victim, then, huh? Let's see, what does the statement sound like? See, because now we know that he absolutely went down Calabash Road. So we have another person here whom it very much could have been. Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, Castle? Well, juror number 2, juror number 6.
My, whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you.
Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of second-hand titles. He then returned home on foot.
But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey.
That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in the green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes.
Yes, we're all very aware of this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
Objection!
Can we really be sure of that, madam?
My, whatever do you mean?
I'm sure you heard juror number 6 accounts of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood.
Oh my.
My goodness, yeah, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to the hard of hearing juror number 6.
Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was the jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today?
That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that.
My goodness me.
Oh, sorry. You need a pee?
And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On
Calabash Road.
Therefore, if the person whom Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means that the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly, the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home.
Oh my.
You idiot, old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days? Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat? Is it?
My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but...
You'd like to change your leaning, I presume?
I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty.
Thank you.
I would too.
What?
Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well...
Man, the character design. I keep forgetting to sort of comment on it, but the character design in this game is just so good. Because, like, you will never, in a million years, like, you look at these characters lined up next to each other, and you will never in a million years confuse them from one another. They all have completely distinct personalities. Every part of the character design is used to tell the story of who the character is. It's so good.
Well, that summation is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The ayes 2, the noes 4. So the noes have it, not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
What now? I was wondering if he was going to throw it.
Could it seem childish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy.
Lord Van Zeeks?
It seems I must retract my earlier remark.
What do you mean?
I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer.
Whatever do you mean?
Objection.
I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth.
Indeed, stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir.
That's right. Took me the whole day and they paid me a measly tuppence for it.
Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents?
Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue now. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters.
Less than 2 meters?
That's not much at all.
In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend?
Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What?
And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing over the site of your works?
I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway, and we just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump right over us all the time.
The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town.
Is that true? Is it?
The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road.
Crushed in a single sentence.
And old man. Cold man? You can talk? You said that around 5 o'clock on the day in question you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time?
I can't say as I remember.
You don't remember?
How about the wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw. But I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it.
Order! Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself.
My lord, if you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination? I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. He's trying to teach us something, huh? But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. Hey, there we go again. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over.
What are you talking about?
My lord, the prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses.
It's next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident.
Yeah, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less.
I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness.
Alright, no matter who Van Zeeks brings to the stand as his witness, and no matter what they say, I believe in Sosuke-san. I know he's innocent. And I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. Witnesses, please state your name and occupations for the card. I love them. Look at them. Constable Roy Beatty, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir.
And I'm Mrs. Beat. Patricia's my name, and I'm proud to say that I'm this young town hero's wife.
What's the story here? I should give her a different voice.
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Try working in a coal mine. Oh, really? At least coal mines, especially at that time. I'm sure I heard that before, actually. It did. Apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the street, check that meters are reading true, beat up innocents, like run the Irish out of town, assault foreigners, forge crimes, yeah. And they're responsible for keeping the streets clean, lighting and distinguishing our streetlights.
There are a number of items on that list that don't sound so much like policing duties at all.
I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet, I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. Yeah, sure. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife are walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat?
That is right, sir. Isn't it really?
Constable Roy Beatty, sir. Should the report on the street, sir? What a great witness he's gonna be. Very good. I'd like to hear formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. He won't be saying much, will he?
It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at the nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him clear as day.
Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be squashed.
It's death knell, in fact, because that alternative was never viable in the first place. What an unfortunate bechancing, and on your wedding anniversary too.
Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed.
Indeed. However, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Sosuke Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired his wife has to do all the talking. Enough preamble, counsel for the defense. Commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. Literally starry-eyed.
Hold it!
No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat?
Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply.
Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rowley looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling?
What? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rowley, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes.
Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you'd finished your beat for the day, correct? I should probably give him more of a sleepy voice. That's right, sir. Yes. I thought it was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But police is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London cupper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it. It's a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty to patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without failing, without grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all the Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure. So long as they have money and property, yes. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it, then. But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot of being married to a bobby like me, but I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care.
It's almost disgusting.
Look at them. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rowley.
Oh my God. Fuck off.
Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
If a little over the top, perhaps. Yeah, it's a little much. Grumbles and aromantic. And then kindly describe what happened next.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes.
That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in the print, and like Mr. Natsume.
Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain at that time there was nobody else around?
Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there's streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling?
Huh? Oh, yeah. That's right, of course. There was a light fog on the ground. The Briar Road is dead straight, and you can see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrian. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir! There's a couple that spends all day every day keep watching the streets, I'd swear to it, sir! I'm sure. That's my love for Patricia's too. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rowley.
Oh, stop it. That's annoying. It's very cute. It's very annoying. Huh, they're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we've had a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
Hold it!
Scattered something? What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling?
Huh, well, yeah, that's right. There was some old books. I say, old books. Yes, sir! The culprit has dropped a number of them, and are all around where the victim lay on the pavement.
Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print.
That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker.
Oh, we saw him. It was the man in the dock without question, sir. The moustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the short mouth, snub nose, everything.
Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right. He looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away.
I see. Well, this is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here.
May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Shouldn't fucking matter. Human testimony is human testimony. Now, please continue.
Yes, sir. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at the nearby police box.
The thing that I mark is that they say the dude stabbed the woman, then stopped, then deliberately threw books down, and then ran away. Which is a strangely, oddly deliberate behavior, isn't it?
Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I'm the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling?
Huh? Well, yeah. That's right. I asked Mrs. Pitt to go. I was off duty by that point. But Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene.
Very laudable, Mr. Pitt. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance.
That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police books.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box?
Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under so she could go and report it.
I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There is nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know.
And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens.
Oh, please, you're making us blush, isn't he, darling?
Yes, sir! What Patricia said, sir! Let's move on, shall we? But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of a gas street lamp, would you?
We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know.
Right.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he?
Yes, and what of the fog?
We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is. It is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm.
Yes, all right, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about?
Constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and for certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
Yeah, it was the case, no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, cat-like eyes, the talk mouth,
Unmistakable, sir!
As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Sosuke-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So, that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony?
What do you think, Miss Naruhodo?
Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they saw. Miss Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day.
Yes, I feel the same.
So if that's true, where does it leave us?
Well, the members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no, then what do we do? If Kazuma-sama were here,
What are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
What do you mean, somewhere else?
Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could convince some other part of their identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt that the pair's memory of the diary is inaccurate.
Oh, right.
Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Why do I always seem to be so up against it? You're a Phoenix Wright protagonist. You better get used to it.
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it.
What? No. Oh, no, it's really not that at all.
My husband's a policeman, remember? Yeah, and I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one. I could. Every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is?
That will do. Oh, fuck. That will do, Mrs. Beat.
No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please, put your husband's fist down. Perhaps you'd like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling?
Well, she's a handful and a half. You could tell us the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene. Go ahead. I feel like that's the obvious way out.
Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say.
Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question.
After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rowley.
And what was your husband doing at the time?
Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling?
Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime.
Well, Mrs. Bean, seeing as you've regaled the court with tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? Thank you.
I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was The Picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other, and What's It Yearnings. Then there was A Meal for Someone, and the last one was definitely the Thingamy Something.
Huh.
You see?
Yeah, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory.
Oh well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure.
There were indeed books found at the scenes with titles along those lines, as you put it.
Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way that you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
Oh, Jesus Christ! Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to. Don't pull a fucking gun in the courtroom, you Jesus! Terrifying.
Yes, she really is. So, that's it then.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Just let me go. See, he didn't drop 4 books at the scene. He only had 3. I think we'll present the picture first, because there's only 3 books here.
Objection!
So, you're saying that there were 4 books?
That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur somebody, what's its earnings, a meal for someone, and the thing, I mean something.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But there's a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours.
No, what flaw?
Simply that at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4.
What?
Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, there are only 3 books.
But no, that can't be. I saw them. Oh, I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me.
Sorry?
It's that big lump of a dead body. The lady's so large, her corpse is blocking the view of the 4th book, that's all.
Let's at least try to remember that the poor woman isn't dead, even if we're insulting her size, and maybe don't insult her size. No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But Mr. Natsume could not possibly have dropped the 4 books you describe.
Why not?
Fascinating. And from your assured tone, something you can readily substantiate with evidence, I presume. Evidence. Counsel, you will present evidence to substantiate your claim or withdraw it. What proof do you have that the accused did not drop 4 books? Well, he only bought 3. The evidence is right here, in the form of this bookshop receipt. From your books. Yes, this receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed.
No.
Therefore, Mr. Natsume would have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime. Which means that your powers of observation, madam, cannot be relied upon. So, it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken.
Oh no, oh no.
Objection!
Come at me, Sikhs. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend.
What?
What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So, you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair?
He sees right through me.
But your plan is somewhat recoiled against you.
What are you talking about?
It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
Oh.
You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 5 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books.
Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print.
That print? You mean to say...
Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand.
The Lion's That book seems to have a chunk taken out of it.
My, and scorch marks around the edge!
Well now, Mr. Landlord, it seems that we shall see you in court. We'll get there, but ha!
I don't believe it. It's the 4th book.
As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso.
No!
Order! Order!
There, you see? Look at that. Look.
Yes.
It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir.
Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question.
Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please.
Oh, yes, of course. The picture, Monsieur Somebody or other.
The picture of Monsieur Lecoq.
What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury Yearnings.
A meal for someone.
A meal for Gaborio, in fact. As the card has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Did you hear that, really? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia's flawless.
But there's only 3 books in the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4.
There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, Castle, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim.
The victim was holding her own book?
Yeah.
I wonder, what became of that 4th book?
Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. You will submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, Counsel. My pleasure, my lord. Right. So not much to see there other than we already have, but... My.
Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt.
You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages.
What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
So that book is from the landlord, Mr. Garrett, something or other. And what he said at one point was that his wife was throwing books at him. So the book must have been thrown out of the window, and our victim must have picked it up, I guess? It would be straining credulity a little bit to say that like it was thrown out of the window and just happened to land in her hand. So,
Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
A book recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me?
How do you not remember Naruto?
Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride.
I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all, so it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? That's strange. I think I have heard of a book by that name before, and very recently, too.
It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo.
That's the one thing that's sometimes a little bit annoying with Ace Attorney protagonists is like they have these terrible, terrible memories that sort of only jog at the very last moment. The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add.
What?
You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your assistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused's lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination.
Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I?
You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat.
So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all of the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious situation.
I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryunosuke, think. What do you do now?
Objection!
Always raise an objection. Always. I'm not done yet! No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense. And you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... I can't think of what to say!
If I may, Lord Van Seeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point.
Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. Shut the fuck up! For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at moments like this. Shut the fuck up!
Oh?
I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you'll have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Fuck yeah, drink that respecting women juice.
Mr. Naruhodo?
Huh? One of this lad's great guiding principles is tolerance. Ha! Yeah, okay. Sure, like, theoretically, yes, okay. So, the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Mr. Sato, please.
Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Let's just take another look at the picture, just in case. Because, like, there's not, like... It's not like there's anything on the picture. We've checked the book. And we know what that thing's all about. But the picture seems to be... Hang on, let's cross-reference it with the other. No inconsistencies there that I can see. So, moving on.
Yes, I understand. Thank you, Mr. Sato.
This is it. Mr. Sato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
They have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time as well, you know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear? Yes, my lord. It's,
Mr. Naruhodo, I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track.
Yes, I think you may be right. So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case which the fourth book conceals?
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Oh, good gracious. It's been burned to a crisp. So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say. And what of it, my Nipponese friend?
Oh!
Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some valid clue as to what happened that day, pray do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide?
A charred book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Castle. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered its owner? My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth. About the book's owner. I beg your pardon.
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. After all, it's obvious it was hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as to the question of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how could you possibly...
Very well. I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well baron you if your little gamble goes awry.
Counsel, the defense's response is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
Take that!
Garadeb. The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb.
The landlords!
And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but... Of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness, me? Oh, I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. All right then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused's landlady, you say. You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her with that shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house.
Good lord! What sort of incident, counsel?
A fire, my lord.
Afraid to say it happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. You couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is I lost my favorite book, called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, the very same title is the subject of this debate.
How dare he?
Objection!
This is irreversible. All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it will be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime.
Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garadeb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garadeb even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful. I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love.
Can you really? She says as she's like pulling and dragging him around by the neck. Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. No, but she's been raising your fingers all over the place.
Hello, my favourite grown up, wasn't that case? But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window, and a heavy evening fire, incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. 10 to the dozen.
The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of the Gerardev's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no signs of broken glass when we visited the Geradev household. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time and...
Not even remotely.
Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Geradev's wife? I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough. Who says that?
Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward, a mean coward.
Really?
Claiming our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight. Honestly, implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for the appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you that was never my intention.
Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
You right?
Here we go.
How long are we sat in here listening to this nippity spouting those fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly escape the victim is that little hunchback with a moustache, and he ran away from the scene too.
I do declare you're right. Yeah, it's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me.
Sorry. What is it?
Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zix? Another summation examination? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... I love it. If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. What, no forgive the discourtesy this time? In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual positions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
The thing is, I think the laborer is supposed to be an Irishman, but I don't want to do another Irish accent. I refuse. Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mr. Sato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. Yeah, you're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to a summation examination. Sir. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. By the way, amazing gloves he's got. He can crush wine glasses and, like, not get a single stain on them. I don't intend to trick anybody.
I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined.
Hey! A lovely cliffhanger to end on. Yes. And that is where we'll cut an episode, I think. Right at the summation examination, after the second lowest possible point where we're just about to lose. Ah, what a place to cut. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, you can hit the like, comment, and or subscribe buttons down below, and they'll let you know when more episodes, coming up on the channel and stuff. I also have a Patreon, a merchandise store, and a tip jar, and if you want to see more episodes of this series or the other series on my channel right now, then you can become a member on the channel, and there's probably going to be some unpublished episodes waiting for you behind members-only access. So, if you want that, you can do that, and it helps me with my rent and stuff. But if you don't want to, or you're not in a position to be able to, please don't worry about it. It's completely okay. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to wear a mask, wash your hands, take whatever vaccines are necessary. Try your best to get others to take them too, because, fucking Delta variant. And try to act with solidarity towards those who are worse off than yourself.